Hello and welcome back to the Book, Business, and Brand Building Summit. I'm your host, Jesse Krieger, and for this entire 10-day event, you'll be learning all the different ways you can leverage your book to build your business and brand. That's what it's all about here. Live interviews, want to make this interactive and fun for everybody that's involved. Appreciate all of you guys being here, taking part. And today, I am so excited to have a very special guest, the man behind Love Louder, Preston Smiles. You have probably seen him on the internet talking into the camera, dropping truth bombs, inspiration. He's got a huge following, and I'm fortunate to be able to catch up with him in between his global travels, his book writing, and everything he's involved in. So with no further ado, let me send a big summit welcome to Preston Smiles. How you doing, Preston?
I am well. What's going on, my man?
I'm so excited to have you here, and your energy is just contagious in both in real life and and on video. And for people that are watching this, if you're on the live chat, go ahead and drop in if you've seen any of Preston's videos so far, because if you haven't, you're missing out. And if you have, then you probably know how willing he is to share and go deep on pretty much every topic. And that's what we're going to get into today. We, full disclosure, don't even have a prepared interview presentation. We don't have a list of questions. We want to cover this organically and dive into some really juicy stuff. So
yeah,
maybe we can just start for everybody that that doesn't necessarily know who you are already. Give a little overview, I guess, what you're up to right now, what it looks like right now, and then we can peel that back and see the origin story over time.
Yeah, so like you said, my name is Preston Smiles, and I'm a messenger of love. I'm sent here to remind us all about the one truth, the thing that unites us all, the thing that is the thing we swim in, which is love. For me, underneath all of our stories we have about each other, whether it be gay, straight, white, black, Christian, Muslim, underneath all of that is our truth. And what I found is that in natural disasters, when people's parents get sick and things happen, we tend to come together. And my work is about having that happen before any of that stuff happens. Having us see the truth of our beings here first and then have it reflect out there. So we can be the space for humanity to see that we're all in this together. And how that manifests itself is through YouTube videos, Facebook videos. I write books. I train with my fiance, Alexi Panos, soon to be wife in a couple of weeks. Speak anything I can do, write articles, anything that I can do to wave the flag and get in front of people and remind us all of who and what we really are.
I love that. And for everybody that's watching this, sort of see how you can model a little bit on Preston. When I asked him, who you are, what you're up to right now, instead of just saying like, I'm an author and I do YouTube videos, he started with his real purpose. And I do know and believe that he's a messenger of love as it comes through in all of his videos. And we've got people in the chat saying, I've watched his videos. That's why I'm here now. And so clearly, video for you has been a medium that's really worked well in terms of having people get the experience that they really know you and that they really are able to learn from you as well as interact with you. Have you always felt so comfortable on camera? I think you have an acting background, but have you always been able to be so fluid and dynamic in video environments?
No. So the short answer is no, absolutely not. It's one of the reasons why I leave up my old videos. And I was doing some coaching last night with a few people who are stepping into the space. And I was chatting with them about how there's no possible way to go from here to there without being in the game. So everybody's, for the most part, especially when it comes to video or books, are looking for the silver bullet, that one-stop shop. Just show me how to do it, and then I'm done, and then, and now I'm where I want to be. And one of the things I explained, and one of the things you'll see if you just look at my older videos, is I found my voice in the game. And the only way to have, to go through this process is to actually be in the process. A lot of people find themselves in analysis paralysis, judging and sitting on the fence and watching life as it passes by, analyzing how they should do it. And my advice to anybody who's wanting to step into video especially, which is a great idea, because you know, whether you're in person or you're on the other side of a video camera, for me, it's all the same thing. And if you take it in the way that I do, which is, for me, I believe that I may be the last voice that somebody hears before they decide to commit suicide. And how dare I rob people or make it about me and get in my own way and make it about how good I look on camera and is my voice correct? Any of that stuff, I always make it about them. And because of that, it's like I reach into people's hearts through the screen, because it's real for me. And you know, for those of you guys who have been in this space long enough, I literally, and I say literally, receive probably about 10 messages a month where somebody says something to that effect, where it's, I was going to kill myself, or I was at that point where I was going to do something really bad, and I was on someone else's video and it suggested yours, and I clicked play, and I have not been the same since. And I get so many of those that it reminds me that not just me, I'm talking to every single person, including you, Jesse, who do this type of work, that you just never know. It seems like the market's flooded. It seems like everyone's doing video, and they are, but that's still not enough. And there's so many people who can't hear me. They can't hear a chocolate, sexy, beautiful man like myself. You know, there's so many people who just see me, or my essence is too much for them. They say, oh, that dude's got too much energy. They need somebody like you, like you, like you. So we're all on one team. I have no issues helping as many people as possible, especially in this space, because I know there's enough for everybody. There's abundance everywhere at all times, and it's a matter of alignment.
There's a lot of solid gold right now. Or maybe if you grab your headphones, that's perfect. But you know, you touched on something there in relation to video that I think a lot of people that I've certainly talked to about books certainly have the same experience, which is that mental thought loop of who am I to?
Yes.
You know, I think when you spell it out, who am I to, as an acronym is wait. You're playing the waiting game.
Yes.
Who am I to write a book? Who am I to put myself out there as an authority?
Yes.
And, you know, how do you shift that question so that it's not about you? And I know you started to speak to that. And especially when you're getting incoming messages where you're literally saving people's lives, I think it starts to answer itself. But for somebody that's watching this and has a hesitation to put themselves out there in a more authentic, vulnerable, just complete way,
yes.
You know, what advice do you have?
Couple things. One, I remind us all that we can't fail. It's impossible for any of us to fail. Failure would be dying, because no matter what, and I say this to my clients all the time, if you lost every single penny, if the whole thing crashed, if everything went away, the only thing you would do is go through a grieving process or anger or whatever it is, and then you'd be over that, and then you just make it all back. And there's so much freedom in that. When you truly start to live from this understanding that none of us are in the middle of Africa or India where there is no water or food. None of us. If you're watching this video, 9 out of 10, you're not somewhere where there is no water or food, or you don't have a roof over your head. And with that said, there is no way you can fail. So the idea is to shift into that inner 5-year-old that's free and wild and is willing to play and put themselves out there and risk it all in order to gain it all, you know? And so I'll say this as well. At every level of consciousness, there's at least 200,000 people that can only hear it there. So how I was judging my stuff, and this is why I leave my old videos up. If you just go back and go back 5 years ago to my old video, I leave them up because the ego mind of Preston wants to go and say, well, oh, that I don't even believe that stuff. I don't even align with all of that anymore. Some of it, right? But the truth is that right where it is, right where I made that video 5 years ago, 6 years ago, 7 years ago, there's at least 200,000 people right now that can only hear it right there. But the ego mind judges it and says, but I'm here now. It's not even the same, as if everybody's here now, and they're not. So interesting story, Jesse. I submitted my book to Simon Schuster, the first one, while I was in Africa. And I sent it to him. I wrote this amazing book, and they sent it back to me with a giant red X mark, essentially, saying that you need to write this entire book over. And it was, I mean, just straight shattered. My ego shattered. I'm a terrible writer. Oh, I'm an imposter, right? This is the conversations that we end up having. So the imposter syndrome, the anger that they didn't accept my writing, all of this stuff. And the notes came back and said, Preston, while this is amazing information, most of the world will not be able to understand this. You basically wrote rocket science, and we need you to translate the same way you do in video into writing in a way in which the people can get to it. Because you're writing from where you are right now, not where most of the people are. So anybody out there, if you are writing a book, you are making videos, wherever you're doing in this space, understand that most of the planet, A, is suffering and in pain. Most of the planet has never heard the stuff you've heard. And most of the planet, there's a whole, at least 200,000 to 500,000 people that can only hear it from you. They can only hear it from you. So how dare you? It's a crime against humanity for you not to share.
It's powerful. It's really powerful. And, you know, I was just thinking as you were talking about my own experience, I actually pulled down the first couple of videos that I ever made when my, you know, like 4 or 5 years ago when my book was coming out. And I don't know if I'm going to reinstate them after this. But, you know, it just speaks to the fact that it's like, it's such a golden connection to make that as you keep moving up your own development, your own progression, your own ladder of consciousness, that not everybody else is tracking right along with you and is ready for the latest, most amazingly synthesized piece of knowledge and wisdom that you can put forth. And I think it also underscores the point you made earlier about like you learn the game in the game, right? You learn this in the process. There's no point where once I'm good on video, then I'll start making videos.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
That's great. And so maybe let's dial it back a little. Like what actually motivated you to get into making videos, sharing them, building up your community in this way? Because, you know, by any metric, and for everybody that's watching here, we've got a lot of people here in the chat saying, I've watched lots of Preston videos. We've got people from Scotland. There's enough darkness in the world for all of us to be lights.
Yes.
And so people are definitely feeling the message.
Yes.
Laura says, love the idea that we can each change the world for the better just by sharing our authentic selves.
Yes.
And I think that really speaks to what does it mean to have a book and a business and brand. Underpinning all of that is your core message. So, you know, how do you think about it? How did you like get started? Was it an internally driven decision? And
absolutely, man. So for me, some people know this, some people don't. I speak about it in my book, Love Louder. If you haven't got that, go ahead and get it. Yeah.
Shout out. Love Louder. I'm reading this. I'm loving it.
Thank you, man. So yeah, I speak about it a little bit in my book. I've had a few really, what most people would call traumatic situations happen. And I'll skip to the one that really cracked the whole thing open for me. And that is, I was 25 years old. Now I'm now 35, going on 36. So this is 10 plus years ago. 25 years old, I'm in LA. I'm that dude that sits in front of Abercrombie with his shirt off, pretending like he's cool. And I'm starting to act, and you know, things are happening, and I start feeling these heart palpitations. And I was one of those people. I grew up super macho in a gang, just like a whole other dude. And I went to college and then got my master's degree and started to open up this, you know, sort of unfold. But it wasn't about supporting humanity. It wasn't about doing what I'm doing now. I would start feeling these heart palpitations, and it gets really bad. And I hadn't been to the doctor since I was like 12. And so it gets so bad that I go to the doctor, and immediately she says, you need to see a cardiologist. She ran a couple tests and she was like, you need to go like today. So I went the next day, and I'm in this office with, a 75, 80-year-old man to my left and a, 50-something-year-old woman to my right. And it just had this it's like, what am I doing here? And the one thing you don't mess around with is the heart. So went in there, talked to the cardiologist. He ran a couple tests, connected a machine to my chest, and sent me away for a couple days to monitor what was happening. So I come back, he looks at all the tests, all the blood work, all that stuff, and he sits me down and he asked me 2 questions, changed the game for me. First question was what are your stress levels like? I was like, what's stress level? I'm 25, I don't really know what you're talking about. And he's like, explain your life to me. What do you, and I explained to him what my life was like and how somebody really close to me was struggling with drug addiction most of my life, and that I felt an immense pressure to make it in Hollywood so this person wouldn't die, so I could get them the treatment that they needed and all of this stuff. And he said, young man, you're highly stressed out. So that was number 1. Number 2, he said, what do you eat? I said, I eat food. And he was like, okay, explain food to me. So I said, I eat McDonald's, Burger King, I drink beer, I smoke weed, sloppy joes, everything, just food. And he said, young man, that's not food. And I said, what are you talking about? Of course it's food. It's on the commercials. It's food. And he said, how long have you been doing this? And I said, my whole life. And he said, by your whole life, what do you mean? And I said, from the moment I can remember having food till today, I've been eating everything I just explained, minus the weed and beer. And my mother, my father, and my entire family and community all eats the same. So there's nothing outside of what you're telling me. And I started to get upset. And he said, well, as a doctor, I'm going to prescribe you some pills that you're going to take for the rest of your life that will regulate your heartbeat. But as a father and as a citizen, I would suggest that you look into the food that you're putting into your body and your stress levels. So I left that day very upset, and I'm going to wrap this story up really quickly. I left that day super upset and made a decision that I would not be taking pills for the rest of my life. And I decided to go cold turkey. I dropped all fast food. I stopped eating meat. And I just went through this process of eliminating things out of my diet and stress levels. And my ex-girlfriend at the time, her mother, knew that I was dyslexic. And she said, Preston, I know you don't read, but I just got this book by Jerry and Esther Hicks. It's called Ask and It Is Given. And I just think that you would love it. And just please just look into it, because I heard what's happening to you. And I said, I'll try anything. And I got this book. And I remember being about 8 pages in, and it said, your thoughts become things. And I dropped the book. I was like, what the hell is that? I'm 25 and I've never heard that in my life. They said, you create your own reality with your thoughts, words, and actions. And I got so upset, and also was so invigorated by this information, because I had never heard that ever. This is before the internet, and it wasn't there. That stuff wasn't out in the world. And so that prompted me to look into what else I had been lied to about. And I watched this movie Zeitgeist and all these other conspiracy theory movies. And then The Secret came out that same year. And then, so fast forward to, I started having these experiences where people and my friends and family and around LA were saying, Preston is enlightened. He's woken up, right? And people would come to me and they'd say, yo, P, I'm dealing with this stuff with my girlfriend. How do I be with it? Or, my mom is really sick. How do I be with it? And I kept getting the same questions over and over again, no matter where I was in the world. And one day I said, because I was a life coach without knowing I was a life coach, because I didn't want to actually do that. And I said, wouldn't it be cool if, and this is YouTube was out, but it wasn't really a thing, not for me and not for most of the world. Right. So I said, wouldn't it be cool if I used that YouTube thing and created a channel called Questions with Preston? And I just started answering questions, because everybody asked the same stuff. I put it out there, and it wasn't like this giant, like audience came, but like 100 people would come for like 3 years straight, like 100 people. And I just served that 100 people to the best of my ability. And they kept giving me more and more feedback. Oh, what you're doing and how you're giving is so amazing. Please keep going. Oh, hello from, London. Hello from Jamaica. Yes, please keep going. I need it. And it created this understanding of what I was truly here to do and be. And the rest is history.
That's beautiful. And, as I'm listening to that story, it sort of strikes me that even going into that doctor's office and when he asked you those questions, it sounds like at least in one respect, you're still service oriented, right? You had a high level of stress because as you said, you wanted to make it so that you could take care of other people that were close to you.
Yes.
And perhaps even before that conscious connection was formed, where you're now like proactively creating content and sharing it with people. It was still alive and well, even underneath the sloppy joes and all the
oh, for sure. Anybody, even when I was in a gang, I was one of the best leaders you could find in basketball and gangs and everything. They still to this day, and I get messages from people who I used to be like, I used to do dirt with, and they're like, yo, you were always a good dude. Always. Like always, even in the crap that we did, you always had a consciousness to it. And like, I was just a kid with a lot of energy, but yeah, I've always loved humanity.
That's pretty beautiful. I mean, it's sort of a tangent, but do you see people from that earlier stage in life, do a lot of them reemerge now, or have people discovered you or gotten back in touch with you now through the inspiring, love-filled videos that you're creating? And
yeah, it's amazing, man. It's amazing. What's interesting is, and I'm going to say this not just for myself, but for everybody else out there. What I've found is that those closest to you sometimes can be the last ones to actually believe in you. And those, further out tend to buy into what you're giving, And so for me, most of that time, my like real, when I decided to step in like this, some of my closer friends and family, even to this day, when it comes to my book launch, some of them didn't share it. Some of them didn't put it on their social media. Some of them didn't call me. And I'm saying this and I'm putting this out there because they are invested in the old you, and they know you from what you used to be. And I totally get it. I used to be a dick in some ways, and a brat, and very much an attention whore. And I can see how some people would like to hold me to that. But that's not who I am now. And all of that was coming from fear-based habits that I created around trying to protect my heart. And so to answer your question, yes and no. So a lot of people who who knew me from like the gang days and just being like a bad, those people are gung-ho. They're like, yo, P, like, whoa, But some of my closer people are still having a hard time with it. Even in their calling and saying, oh, congratulations, I love you and all that stuff. But I can tell what's under it, and that's okay. I love them too. And I know it's a process.
Good. It is okay. And I think it drives home a really important point that I want everybody that's watching this to take home is that, your close circle of friends, your family, those are not necessarily the first people that you need to get on board when you're up leveling, when you're writing a book, when you're putting yourself out there in a new, different, and bigger way. Yeah. It's actually a lot easier to put that out and get any type of exposure to. I just think of it as anybody I don't know, because they're going to find out about you. They're going to hear about you through the exact message that you're sharing, through the book that you've worked on and put out to the world, and can choose to associate with you, to support you, to interact with you on the basis of who you are now and who you're becoming.
Yes.
And I really drive that home because, a lot of people, a lot of authors especially, think of their close friends and their family as that's my core audience, right? Sure, they're going to know you, they're going to like you hopefully forever, but they're not necessarily your nucleus of support when you're stepping out there in a bigger way. Yeah. Thanks.
And sometimes that light that you're shining and that thing you're stepping into unconsciously makes them feel smaller. So they want to do their best to keep you where they know you at, because all things are equal at that point. And your job, my job, is to love them anyway, and to see through it and see past it and get the truth of who we be. And remember that it is your job. Like that person said in the comments, there is enough darkness in this world that we can all turn our lights on and it still be enough for all of us. And it's not about turning the light on. It's about the receptivity to the light that's already there. It was never off. It's about aligning with what's already there. I say this to my clients all the time. It's not your job to make it happen. It's your job to welcome it. And you welcome it through your daily practices. I'm constantly practicing, seeing abundance, seeing God in everything and everyone. And the moment you it's like you smelt it, you dealt it kind of situation. Like if you can smell it, it's there for you. It's who you be, and that becomes the space you live from. And when you're living from abundance, the only thing that can come back to you is more abundance. And you tap into the universal law of circulation, which means everything is moving, everything is transitory. And when you're in that space, it's game on, period.
So how do you personally visualize that transition, or living in the space of welcoming it to happen instead of making it happen? Because it's a common tendency for authors, also, especially for entrepreneurs. I'm going to go build my business. I'm going to do all of this. I'm going to make this happen. How do you go from that forward moving, forward driving, so intense, I'm going to work 80 hours a week and wear it like a badge of honor, to welcoming it in?
Yes.
The experience take place.
That's huge. So there's something called the law of least effort, or the law of economy. And the law of least effort basically states that the universe uses the least amount of effort to flow, right? So the grass isn't like trying and efforting to grow, it just grows, right? And the ocean isn't trying to ebb and flow, it just flows. And so if we can take a book out of nature, or take a page out of nature's book, which we already are, and start to align with that which is the highest good in any given moment. So how I raise my vibration and the practices that I do is I dance in the small things, in the mundane, in the little tiny, things that most people would say don't matter. Because I understand that small hinges swing big doors, that the little small things, the little tiny steps every day of guarding the castle of my consciousness, not watching terrible, violent movies and listening to crazy ass music that has me brainwashed, not, checking into things like CNN and things of that nature to lower my vibration. This is big. Remembering to play every day. I find that entrepreneurs, especially people writing books, people on this path, forget to play. They forget to have fun. I schedule that in every day. You will not catch a day where I'm not silly. You will not catch a day where I'm not out playing, skateboarding, biking, surfing, doing something for me. Because that thing feeds the creativity. It feeds the flow. The genius is already here. The question is, are you aligned with it? And we get out of alignment when we're trying too hard, when we're efforting the whole thing. There is something beyond and bigger than all of us. Nobody can explain it. Our science tries all the time. Religions try all the time. People try to, in our small human myopic perspectives, try to make sense of it. But there's something bigger than us. You don't have to know it. You just have to know the knower. You don't have to know it. You just have to know the knower. This is, I'm like, it's coming in here. It's flowing right now.
I don't want to get in your way. Let it out.
This is a game changer, because the moment you let go of having it, control, security, approval. These are the three ones. This is what humans operate from: control, security, approval. We move from trying to, and it usually goes something like this. There's a point in our childhood where we were seeking approval from our friends, our family, our environment, et cetera, et cetera. And all of our operating, our dealings And there's nothing wrong with any of those three. The question is can you have it be an internal thing instead of external? Instead of trying to, dress a certain way or make a certain amount of money or whatever so you can gain approval and security. And I totally get it. And then if all else fails, then you try to control and manipulate the situation so you can know that you have security. And like for me, having that be an internal thing is where the game has changed, because that means there is no out there-ness. There's nothing out there that's going to give me approval or control or security. And I have security in knowing that I cannot fail. It's all a perspective. If we can really play, and that's what I said, back to the nuances of life. If you can just check in, like, look at that, I just checked out. Whoa. Oh, okay, now what do I choose? I just checked out. This person's talking, but I'm not really listening. I've just checked out. What do I choose now? I choose to get curious about them. Okay, back in. If you can keep bringing an awareness to how you're operating and what's been operating you, then it shifts from it having you to you having it. And at that point, you're a creator. You're a conscious creator. Most of the planet is operating from to me consciousness, which is the world. They are the effect of the world. It happened to me. And then entrepreneurs go into by me, I can make it happen. I'm Gary Vaynerchuk or whoever, and I can make it happen, right? But there's also through me consciousness. And that through me consciousness is surrender. You just let it go. You say, Spirit, use me. Have me be a vessel for you. And then there's as me consciousness, which is Christ consciousness, which is what Jesus and the Buddha and all these other people tapped into, where they got that God is everything, that it can't be separate. And this is not necessarily a linear thing that just you go to one and you graduate and you stay there. Like I float between all of those. I'd be the first person to tell you I get into victim mode, not as much as I used to because I'm in the practice, but I still go there. And then I get into that by me consciousness and remember that I get to surrender. So I don't know if I answered any.
It sounds like you have that, like a release valve or something where, I love how you said, I'm talking to somebody and I checked out, your mind goes somewhere else. We all do that.
Yes.
But having that little question that's saying, okay, I'm aware that just happened. And where do I go here? Where do I go from?
Yes.
And that sounds like the perfect first lever to get more, I would say get more control of your life, but that's not what we're talking about, right? Getting more of a clear channel to have the message come through. And I know, love how you identify as being, love's messenger.
Yes.
It's not, I am love and I'm going to give it to you, or I'm going to go get some love over here and bring it to my audience. It's opening up and letting it come through.
Yes.
And, I think, and I can see people are saying, thank you for sharing the thought that our families and life and our friends may not be our cheering sector, right?
Yeah.
I thank you for sharing that we allow life to happen as we become the people we are meant to be. It says, go dyslexics.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Which a quick point, on the author note, if anybody is worried about dyslexia or whatnot, that's right. There's audiobooks. There's so many ways to create and consume content.
Yeah. And it just may take longer. It's the thing. Like Alexi, my fiance, can read a book in like 2 days. For me to read a book, it takes like 2 to 3 months, maybe 5, maybe 6, depending on how thick the book is, because I have to read things over and over and over again for it to actually land. And that's okay. That's actually a gift. I'm so grateful for this mild dyslexia or whatever it is, because when I'm taking things in, I really take it in. I can't rush. I just can't. I have to actually slow down and be with what's being written there. And so it creates a space for me where I'm letting the material land.
That is a blessing, because, I know from watching your videos, and for all of you watching this that have seen Preston, he gets going and it's like, it like picks up steam until it's just like full blown. And I think that you've definitely found a great channel through which you can communicate with video. And I just encourage everybody to watching this. You don't have to be on that same level as Preston when you're creating video, and other channels work for different people. Like even as an author and publisher, it's way more difficult for me to sit down and write, say, a blog post than it is to flip on a camera, have somebody ask me questions or ask somebody questions and get into a dialogue. So there's a number of ways that you can share your message, and a book being one of them. Video, audio, interviews, live events. You have to find the one that's going to make you feel most alive, so you can just open up and let that through instead of the panel being a inhibiting factor.
Yes.
We got some good stuff coming in here. I literally pray to be a vessel of positive messages. Thanks for the validation.
Yeah.
Mark says, damn, ... no words. We take that as a good thing. We take that as a good thing.
Awesome. Love that.
So I have a question for you, Preston. You've covered so many different topics, so many different angles on your videos. And I know you started with the questions with Preston, just sort of feeding back on what people were asking you in your own life. But, nowadays and in recent memory, what are some of the ways that you generate ideas, or where do you grab ideas out of the events of daily life that you ultimately turn into videos and speak to in a more definitive way?
Yeah, everything. And the world, life is a giant, sort of canvas for creation. So I'm really paying attention more to what I'm experiencing, because I know that we're not separate. So if I'm having the feeling of checked outness, if I'm having, let's say the I'm not smart enough conversation, 9 out of 10, at least 500 to 1 million people are having that same conversation right now, just now, not just overall, but like right in this moment, the same moment I am, somebody else is having that worthiness conversation. So if I can play with the nuances of what that means and what came up for me and where did it come up? My throat shut down when that came up. And catching the conditioned tendencies, because we all have conditioned tendencies. When we are put in, and this is a part of the work that we do somatic work where we put people in high pressure situations over and over and over again so they can see their conditioned tendencies, because you can't intervene in a world that you truly cannot see. And this is a world. So catching my conditioned tendencies when placed in high pressure, anxiety, overwhelm, all of that stuff, I get material from that. And same for you and anybody else. My advice to anybody, whether it's writing, videos, blogs, whatever it is to speak in your authentic voice. Because I find that the game changer has been not trying to be anything other than P. Not trying to pretend to do it in the same way Jack Canfield and so-and-so did it, or, the so-and-so had success writing like this, so I'm going to write like this, and like just doing you. Whatever you're into, do that with all of the gusto that you have. If you have code language with your friends, explain that and speak from that. I talked to a buddy yesterday, and he was saying, I heard you on the Lewis Howes interview, and I just got to tell you, he was like, I loved that. I've known you for years. He's known me for like 7-8 years. He was like, you, at the end of the interview, you said, Jah Rastafari. And he said, I almost fell out of my chair because you've been doing that from 7 years ago. And he's like, I love that you didn't shift. You didn't try to be professional with Lewis Howes because many people are going to see this interview. You did P. And because you do P, and because you are, you honor your unique soul signature. And this is, I'm speaking to you guys out there, because I honor who I be and how I operate. More people come in. It's that thing in the Bible where it says, you have been faithful over few, I shall make thee ruler over many. This is the parable of the talents. You have been faithful over the few things that I've given you, I shall make thee ruler over many. This is what I'm experiencing. I'm using what I have, what's here right now, not trying to pretend, not trying to be anything other than what's here. And because I'm faithful over this, the universe, God, Buddha, Allah, Krishna, whatever name is on the door for you or me, is granting me more. So I just would say, from the bottom of my heart, talk like you talk, walk like you walk, speak like you speak. Give your gift from that nerdy place. If you talk slow, talk slow. If you have that like sexy thing that you do and you giggle and you move your hair, do that thing. Don't place yourself up against that. Comparison will kill your career and your life. Take care of you. Do this because you're unique. There's not another single being on the planet, and everything here is intended to be here. So how dare you? You know, I said in that video that I posted yesterday, it's a middle finger to your creator when you don't do what's here. When you don't, when you don't take care of this.
And drop the mic. I think I want to bring attention to something you said there that I really like about, when you're working with clients and to help them identify their tendencies, those ingrained tendencies. You put them time after time into high pressure situations. That's certainly been my experience, in entrepreneurship and even with this summit. When you bite off, when you have a big vision, something that's far beyond what you may even be able to do yourself. Yes. And you find yourself in the process of doing that work, it actually brings up it confronts you with the real underlying issues in a big way. Yes. And how we respond to that is, one, it's a choice. But two, as you mentioned, which is beautiful, it sheds light on those ingrained tendencies. And just like when you said, when you're talking to somebody and you check out and you choose to become curious, for example, that is what develops character, in my opinion. And the other thing to take note of, oh man, the comments are flooding in now, but is, I find as well that if you're wondering like, who am I? What's my own voice? Character can be found in those high pressure situations and when you're alone. Yes. It's like, if you put me in a house by myself all day, like I'm kind of quirky and weird and there's nobody paying attention, right? So that's also an expression of who we are. Yep. And let me just tell you a little bit of what's coming in. You can't fake congruence, brother. It says it's beyond a good thing. This is so awesome, and I was meant to be here. I can't fail, all caps. Yeah. This is spiritual food, and I am being nourished. Yeah. And Lane, shout out to Lane on my team, says that's so true. I read so fast, I don't always let the info land. Yes. Just reflecting on that blessing of having to slow down to consume written content.
Jesse, let me say this because I want to add to what you just said.
Yes, please.
Some of those conditioned tendencies, and here's the reason why you want to catch them. Here's the reason why you want to bring an awareness to them. Because if you don't, they have you. You don't have them. So what happens sometimes is people, let's say you set out to have this big dream, right? You have this thing. I'm going to write the book. I'm going to do the blog. I'm going to all that stuff, right? And there's something called the law of diminishing intent, where you start out pumped up. You're like, yo, I'm going and I'm going to create this book. And then the conditioned tendencies come in, because the moment you declare anything, the universe is going to come in and send you the opposite. So the moment you say, I'm going to lose weight, the universe goes, would you like a free donut? Like it's just going to happen. The moment you say, you know what, I'm going to stop drinking as much as I usually do, your buddies are going to say, it's my bachelor party. You got to drink, bro. All of these things are going to happen. And what happens is if you are not aware of your conditioned tendencies, you'll do them, which is overeating, porn, distracting yourself with easier, low-hanging fruit, like, oh, I'll just scroll Facebook for a little bit, or I'll just post here, instead of doing that because, I'll get to that later. These are all ways in which our conditioned tendencies pop up, right? And what will happen is unconsciously, you'll stop believing you. You'll stop believing you. You'll say, I'm not to be trusted. I did this last time. I said I was going to write a book last time. And look where it left me. 3-4 years later, I still haven't done it. I said I was going to start the video series and I still haven't done it. Why? Because your conditioned tendencies have you. You get put in this pressure cooker, and then diminishing intent happens, where your intention keeps diminishing. And then all of a sudden you look up and you're like, oh, nope. And that's why so many people set these New Year's resolutions and, 4 months later, gym membership not being used. Yeah. All the stuff
far fewer people are doing monthly or quarterly check-ins on their New Year's goals than the first 2 weeks of the year, shouting them from the hilltops. Yep. But so how do you make that shift in that situation where you feel I think of it as like the enthusiasm half-life, right?
Yes.
Really excited. Maybe even things start to go well. And you're
Yes.
like, oh, this was definitely the right choice.
And then you
I'm getting
sabotage.
validation right out of the gate.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden you get hit with something that throws you off course.
Yep.
What's your experience with that?
So, I mean, I have firsthand experience with that a lot. My mom sent me a message yesterday with a picture that said the IRS on it. And I was like, oh, right. So things are going good, about to get married, about to go to, all this stuff. And then I got that. And here, and I'm sharing this with you guys because that's a real time thing that just happened yesterday. Right? Here's what I do. So when things like that come up, where I'm in this experience where like I got momentum and I'm pumped up and all of life is happening, it's beautiful and all of that stuff, and then something comes in, I take note, because everything is just feedback. Everything's a neutral event until we give it a meaning. Everything is a neutral event until we give it a meaning. Even rape, famine, the worst shit you can name is still a neutral event until we give it a meaning. So I could see those letters, IRS, and I can make it mean a lot of things. But for me, I made it mean, oh, that's interesting. That's some feedback for me. That what I sent in to them, they didn't necessarily, take note of, and it's going to take a little more work, but I'm committed to the mountain without staring at the mountain. So let me explain this. How do I explain this? So I know where I'm going, right? And I know that there is, hold on, I wrote this down the other day. It was genius. You cannot go anywhere to get what you already have, and you cannot do anything to become what you already are. So I know that I know what mountain I'm headed towards, and I also know that it's not the mountain that we conquer, but the self, because there'll always be a new mountain. So the question is, with the understanding that there'll always be a new mountain, no matter whatever goal you hit, no matter what you'll get there and you'll go, woohoo! And then you'll set a new goal. That's how life is. Desires never stop. So the question is, with that understanding, what is my real commitment? My real commitment is to keep my consciousness upstairs. My real commitment is to create meanings out of things that support my overall alignment. So when one finds that they are out of alignment, which is going to happen, there's no getting out of that. Nobody on the planet is getting an A++ at that. You're going to be out of alignment. The difference between myself and, let's say, someone who experiences suffering quite a bit is the meaning that we make of the thing out of alignment. So what most people and entrepreneurs do is they go, oh shit, I'm overeating, I'm emotional eating right now, and I'm not doing what I said I would do. Damn it, look how terrible I am, I'm so bad. Now, same scenario would happen to me, and I would go, oh crap, I'm overeating and I'm doing that emotional thing again. Hilarious. Dude, all right, what do I choose now? Because that's not serving me, that's not effective. Pete, what do you choose now? And so you get the difference, the distinction? I'm not punishing myself for being out of alignment. I'm just happy that I caught it. I'm happy that I caught it. So I've now created something. Everything is vibrating. So vibrationally, I'm still in alignment because I caught it. Ah, yes, caught it. Or, no, I'm terrible. Two different come-froms.
And I love that catching it is what prevents you from going down a spiral, right?
Yes.
Because it's like there's the thing, oh, I'm overeating right now. But then there's the story of, oh, I always do that. And why can't I control my eating? And I'm a bad person. And it stacks up until you just completely diss yourself in every single level. And all you really did was have a little bit more food than you initially meant to.
Yeah, you're just human. And some stuff happened. And that's awesome. And you're in a process. You're a lotus flower forever unfolding. Will never not be unfolding. So if you can give yourself, and like I mean this so much, guys, if you can give yourself some leeway and give yourself the benefit of the doubt and just love on you like your grandmother loves on you, like your family loves on you, like if you could love on you, because I get it, we're our own worst enemies. Nobody, like we beat ourselves up more than anybody could ever even come close. So for me, I give myself leeway. Of course, I don't want to make this a habit, But the habit of catching it and celebrating it doesn't give it gas. I don't give it gas. It runs out of gas on the side of the road because I don't give it my attention in that way. What I give gas to is celebration. What I give gas to is love. What I give gas to is my awareness muscle. Oh, it's getting so big. Look how fast I caught that. Oh, that was like 3 minutes in and I caught it. Yo, P, you're getting fast over here. That's a different come from, you know?
Absolutely. And, I think as we can start to close the loop on this, and hopefully everybody that's watching, the presentation name for this talk was called How to Get a Six-Figure Book Deal Without Sending a Single Email. And guess what? We've been talking about it the whole time, even if we didn't use those words.
Boom.
And but I do want to close the loop and bring this in to your book, Love Louder. And so we're gonna pick, or I'll pick afterwards, some people from the chat thread to get a free copy of. I've got 5 copies for everybody here on the summit. Our gift from Preston and myself, a copy of Love Louder.
Thank you.
And speaking of a lotus that's forever unfolding, such is the experience of having a book in the market, right? There's that celebration moment. Yay, it's done. Okay, yay, the book launch. And then there's years and the book is out there and it can still reach people and touch people and make sales. And so I'd love for you to speak for a moment or two about, how you came into this book deal and your experience now. I know your book just came out this month, being on the other side of that equation now as a published author.
Yes. So I'm going to touch on the six-figure deal without writing a single email really quickly, so you guys get how this process even happened. And I'll sort of underpin it with the understanding that when you take 2 steps, the universe, God, whatever you like to call it, takes 2 million. When you are in alignment with your soul signature, when you are loving you and filling your own cup and doing the work and putting the belief and the action, intention plus action equals results. Intention plus action equals results, right? So when you're in that space and the intention is to be you and to honor you and abundance and love and all of those things, the universe has a way out of, it makes a way out of no way. It's bigger than you. It's bigger than your brain. It's bigger than you can cognize. So I'm bringing that in right now, and now I'm going to explain the story. So for me, my overall vision, mission is to be an option for people in the world just like Justin Bieber is. To be an option for people in the world just like Kim Kardashian is. To be an option for people in the world like Lil Wayne, So I want, kids in high school and people in college and grown ass people to go, you know what? Like, I could follow those dudes, but like this dude is just as dope and he's coming from love. And like, look at that thing, look at his light. There's something there, right? So that's my mission. So I'm a part of something called ATL, which is the Association of Transformational Leaders. Jack Canfield started it. I went on my first retreat. I was nominated by...
You were like the youngest inductee into the Association of Transform.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And so I went in and, it was awesome. I was having a good time. And let me let you guys know, I live by the 3 G's, which is giving, growth, and gratitude. Right. So these are things that I always remind myself of when I'm in, let's say, tricky situations, and so the 3rd day of the retreat is happening. It's Sunday. Everybody's going to leave. I come in late to the dining hall and everybody, all the cool kids are already sitting at tables laughing and joking. And I'm this like young, chocolate man who doesn't really know everybody like that. They've known each other for years. I'm the new guy. And I have this sort of junior high school moment where I'm like, oh, where do I sit? Oh, and I start freezing, right? And I knew that my conditioned tendency would be to, try to appease, because there's fight, flight, freeze, and appease, right? So it would be try some way to people please and like make people like me, which is a form of trying to control out there. Remember, I'm bringing this whole thing full circle. So I understood all that, and I said, okay, now we got to bring it back here, P. And I looked around the room and I said, how can I be of service Who do I not know? Who am I interested in? And there was a guy in the back of the room sitting by himself eating. I said, I've never met that guy. I'm gonna go talk to him. Just like from a genuine place. So I went and sat next to him and I shook his hand and then we hugged. And his name is Bruce Cryer. He's a former CEO of Heart Math Institute. We're talking, we're chatting, we're laughing, and we're like best friends immediately. And at the end, he says, you know, Preston, what are you up to? And I said, well, I'm writing this book called Love Louder, and I'm just in the process. And it's like, oh, cool. That was it. He said, give me your email. Give me your email and your number. We got to hang out sometime. Perfect. Gave my email number, nothing. Go back to LA. I'm still in the process. Giving, understanding that the key to living is giving. That as Shakespeare reminds us in Romeo and Juliet, when Juliet says, my bounty is as boundless as the sea, my love as deep. The more I give to thee, the more I have, for both are infinite, right? So I understand this universal principle that the more I give to thee, the more I have, for both are infinite. And I'm giving. And one day I get an email that I'm CC'd in, and it's a chain of emails. And it says, hey, Michelle, this is the kid Preston I was talking about. You guys got to have a chat. So I'm like, whoa, what's this? So I scroll down and I see that Bruce, former CEO of Heart Math Institute, is now the CEO of Lissa Rankin's company, a New York Times bestselling author. And he is speaking to her agent, which is also the agent of Gabrielle Bernstein, Michelle. And he's speaking on my behalf without me. So Bruce is having a whole conversation with Michelle about this new kid that's going to change the world. And so he finally CCs me in the email. Michelle writes back and says, yeah, Preston, I'd love to talk to you. I'm out here in New York. Where are you? I said, I'm in LA. I'd love to talk as well. We got on the phone. The 10-minute conversation she scheduled turned into an hour and a half. We went in deep. Right? And back to it. I didn't try to be anything other than me. I didn't try to give her the right answers. I didn't try to fit into the box she thought I should fit into. I just talked from where I speak from. And an hour and a half later, she said, listen, I don't normally do this, but I want you to get me a proposal within a week. And I said, okay, what's a proposal? Like, I didn't have all that. And so my fiance helped me make a proposal, and I sent it in. And I started the proposal, and I want to tell you guys because it's hilarious. I started the proposal, and my language again, there's a bunch of pictures, social proof, all this stuff. And I started it, and it said, if Tony Robbins, Marianne Williamson, and Michael Beckwith had a black baby, it would be Preston Smiles. That was the first line of the proposal. And so I started with some comedy, right? And she wrote back, and she said, we absolutely love this. We want you to come in New York. And in that time, she saw that Alexi existed. And she said, is it your girlfriend? What is she? I said, well, I'm going to propose to her pretty soon. But yeah, she's amazing. She said, I want her to come too. So we went to New York and met with Simon Schuster, the whole team. We're in this room with a giant, table. And there's just people all the way down the table. It's like this surreal dream happening. And they asked a few questions, and we let her rip. And we left that day not knowing what was going to happen. And then maybe, I think it was within 6 hours, we finally got to Harlem and checked the phone, and it was like, we want to offer you guys 3 book deals. And I'm like, what? And then from there, it all unfolded. And one of those book deals was a 6-figure deal, which is Now or Never, which is the book that's going to be coming out at the end of December with Alexi and I. And they offered her a book deal and me a book deal, which is the ones you're seeing now. And yeah.
That is I didn't know that whole backstory, but that's awesome and beautiful, and congratulations.
Thank you.
But I think it really just speaks to everything you've been talking about so far, is like catching yourself falling into a conditioned tendency when you walked in that room saying, all right, well, who's that guy? Perhaps he's interesting.
Yeah.
And then I love the fact that, he very nonchalantly carried on this whole dialogue with one of the top literary agents on your behalf.
Yes.
And that you yourself kept constant in just being you, not being like, I'm going to be the next this author for you guys or that.
Yes.
And it worked. It works, and it's working.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, it has been a great pleasure. And I know from everybody over here is loving this life-changing okay, I get it. Don't give it gas. Just
Yeah.
let it roll. I love your energy and receive what you're saying. We even got one person that says, chocolate man, ... Yes.
That's awesome.
And maybe you could take us home, Preston, with any closing words of wisdom or inspiration. And then I know you've got no shortage of things on your plate, so we'll let you go. But it has been a true honor and a pleasure to have you here on the summit, and I appreciate you.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'll say this, and this is a quote that I wrote quite a while ago, but it reminds me all the time, and that is, love will find a way. Everything else will find an excuse. So if you say you love it, find a way. If you say you love it, find a way, because there's always one. The question is are you willing? Are you willing to sidestep your ego? Are you willing to sidestep those small conversations? Are you willing to step in when everybody else is stepping out? Because if you are, you will be rewarded. If you are faithful over few, you shall be ruler over many. I love you guys.
Beautiful. Thank you. Everybody, Preston Smiles, give him a round of applause. Even if you're sitting in a room by yourself watching this on a screen, he can feel you. And we appreciate you. Thank you all for joining us on this interview on the Book, Business, and Brand Building Summit. This will be available on replay for 48 hours. Of course, you can grab your author success pass if you want lifetime access to this and all of the interviews. And that's it for now. We will see you tomorrow. And Preston, take us home.
Oh, oh. Love you guys. Love you so much.
Hey, everybody. Take care.